The year is sometime between 1960 and 1999. A young programmer named John is pondering how to save space on the mainframes he is developing. One day, he comes up with an idea that will change history. Oh, John. And Chief, you may have been right about it really not being an actual problem, but you were so wrong about it being a perceived problem. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about that time the world ended, Y2K. Basically, Y2K is an acronym standing for Year 2000. The acronym Y2K was first attributed to a Massachusetts programmer by the name of Dave Eddy in June 1995 in a book that he published. However, the year 2000 problem was first identified by Jerome and Marilyn Murray in 1984 in a book called The 2000 Year Computing Crisis. And mainly what had happened, programmers as way back as the 70s during many of their trials had decided that it made a lot more sense to save the precious amount of RAM that was present on early computers and early mainframes, and save space on computers by representing the year as 2 digits instead of 4 digits, which made perfect sense. You saved a lot of space, and it really shouldn't have been a problem. However, in 1984 and then later in 1995, certain programmers got nervous that when the year 2000 rolled around and those 2 digits rolled from a 99 to a 2000, the computers, because of the lack of the 4 digits, might recognize that as 1900 instead of 2000. And as a result, any system in the modern world controlled by computers would immediately revert back to 1900 and basically terminate all function. And as humans do, we panicked, and we decided it was the end of the world. And this was capitalized on by televangelists, by preppers, and by all sorts of companies that would sell their services to actually fix the problem. So, in 1997, it became full tilt boogie for United States Congress as well as the United Nations when they assigned task force and private companies to fix the problem and start representing the year as 4 digits instead of 2 digits. But still, what they thought would happen was merely conjecture. And then, New Year's Eve, 1999, arrived. Panic ensued from the gentry who feared what might happen, and from those budding entrepreneurs that had been selling all the wonderful things you might need for having to live off the grid, since there would be no grid, also started to panic because they feared their cash cow was coming to an end. However, when the clock struck midnight, absolutely nothing happened. There were a few instances in a few countries of some things going screwy, but by and large, nothing really happened. In Sheffield, United Kingdom, incorrect risk assessments for Down syndrome patients were sent to 154 pregnant women, and 2 abortions were carried out as a direct result of this miscalculation of the mother's age. In Ishikawa, Japan, radiation monitoring equipment failed at midnight. However, there was no risk to the public. In Okinawa, Japan, an alarm sounded at a nuclear power plant, making people crap their pants, but nothing happened. In Australia, bus validation for tickets failed in 2 bus stations. In the United States, 150 Delaware Lotto machines stopped working. And at the U.S. Naval Observatory, The master clock reverted to January 1st, 1900. And in France, National Weather Forecasting Service Meteo France said that it caused their electronic machine to correct to 1900. But nothing else actually happened. Unless, of course, you're one Alex Jones, who used the Y2K bug as a way to make a name for himself and carried on an Orson Welles War of the Worlds type broadcast that sent several U.S. cities into a panic. And here's some footage and audio from that evening.
Tanks are being blown to bits. Tanks are being blown to bits. Massive Grad unguided rocket attacks are being launched on the city indiscriminately right now. Air and artillery bombardments as well. It's absolutely out of control. It is pandemic, ladies and gentlemen. I'll give you the news first on Y2K. The newest developments: a Pennsylvania nuclear plant has been shut down. One of the main systems transferring the power from it failed, but they say it's not a Y2K problem. And the things I'm experiencing here in Austin, Texas: the shelves are empty of water and some gas stations are running out of fuel. Here in Central Texas and in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the shortwave is basically down, ladies and gentlemen. Went off right as I went on the air. The big news on Y2K. Then we'll start going to your calls. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. All right, let's go ahead and get to this article. Associated Press. This came out at 7:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time today, December 31st, 1999. Pennsylvania nuclear plant shut down. One of the two nuclear reactors at PECO Energy Co.'s Limerick Generating Station has shut down this morning after a piece of equipment failed. Company spokesman Neil McDermott said the problem was not Y2K related. It was declared an unusual event, the least serious emergency classification of a nuclear power plant. They got to have a serious emergency to shut down a plant, ladies and gentlemen. You power one down, you're not going to power it up for at least days. It was declared an unusual event. At 2:55 a.m., shutdown occurred when an insulator on the main generator transformer from Limerick 2 failed. We had reports yesterday of this. Off the record, I would not report it, but I had it from a good source that this plant was having problem along with 4 other plants. I may just go ahead and report it here. I mean, boy, do we get good information here. This has been going on for days. From our information, it is not this transformer that they're talking about. They wouldn't just shut a plant down over that. Something serious may be going on there. So that the central government, known as the federal government, the occupational government in Washington, D.C., has set up a huge $50 million command bunker hooked into all the FEMA boxes that can take over all the shortwave broadcast and commercial AM and FM stations, as well as television broadcast stations, and we hope they do not activate that, ladies and gentlemen. Police and military are on high alert, running around looking for supposed boogeymen and terrorists under every rock. Military are highly visible now. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are trains of military equipment moving into Austin. 2 nights ago, on Wednesday night, Fox News reported that the airport will be used as a massive holding facility for troublemakers or rioters here in Austin that has no history of riots. They need to get that country locked down so they can stage the election for Vladimir Putin. I mean, this guy is a demon. Have you seen this guy? Just how he's raging with power? I'm Alex Jones. I'm your host. I'm just one of the great hosts here on the GCN radio network, and I've been very passionate today because I can't even keep track of all the developing news as it's coming in. I'm not going to get into the...
And that's what happened, everyone. Y2K, 1999 to 2000. As you can see, the only ones that profited are those that were using it for their own gain. Don't listen to people that say they can predict the end of the world. Never happens. Until next time, Keto Comic, out.